If you've been watching some of our coverage from South India, there's one term that we keep referring to multiple times over. That's Global Capability Centers, or GCCs. I mean, they're all over. Big names are launching these centers across Bengaluru, Hyderabad and Chennai, and they've become a mainstay of sorts for the office market. But what exactly does a GCC do? What goes on inside these centers? Are they merely cost centers for global companies, or is there more at play? Today, I've got the chance to check out the Global Solutions Center of US-based retail giant 7-Eleven right here in Bengaluru. So join me as I find out what it's all about. Malhar, good to have you with us here on ET Now, and it's good to be right here in Bengaluru at the 7-Eleven Global Solutions Center. What exactly happens right here at the Global Solutions Center? Which part of that 7-Eleven experience there actually happens right here where we're at?
Thanks for being here. It's our pleasure to have you here today. We are 7-Eleven. We are 85,000 stores across the globe, 20 different countries, and our major markets are Japan and US, and the rest of the markets are called part of the international markets. And the team here actually works with our 7-Eleven US. And we have teams across all the enterprise functions, whether it is retail, corporate, and as well as technology.
Right.
The team here are integrated into global organization to create the value for our business and the customers.
Right. Absolutely. So let's say I walk into a 7-Eleven store in Texas or Washington or New York. Which part of that store experience that I have over there is actually built and designed right here in Bengaluru? How does that pan out?
The key is, the word is design. Right from designing the store layout itself happens out of here.
Okay.
How do you experience that store, including the layout, the merchandise, where what is stacked, and how do you move out of the store, including the self-checkout, the payment, and as well as fuel stations which are outside the store, and how the dispensing happens, and the payments within the store, all of that, the fingerprints of Bengaluru and GSC are part of that experience.
All right. So let's say, give me an example then of a piece of technology or an innovation or a design that was conceived of, thought of, engineered and designed and built right here in Bengaluru. If I were to ask you for one example of what that aspect of that feature is, what would it be?
We are an integrated team. So I'm not going to say this is designed here, that is developed here, right? See, it is one global organization. We are one team globally. So if I have to talk about innovation, innovation happens every day in the work we do across the globe.
Right.
But again, we need to pick our battles. We need to choose our initiatives to drive innovation. A simple example can be, we do have 1,400 stores, or sorry, 14,000 stores across US. And there is national data across all our merchandise. And there is market data specific to markets and as well as store level. And the merchandise is not the same across all the stores. Every store, we have different merchandise customized to the location of the store, the customers whom we expect, and the demographics of our customers itself. So there is a lot of data goes into building that what sells in that store. And we do have a replenishment engine which is built to create that unique store merchandising assortment by store, and as well as we give levers to our store leaders to actually customize that merchandise as well.
And all of that happens right here?
All of that happens right here. But again, it is not as GSC versus US, it is one team across the globe.
Now, one of the big use cases right here at the Global Solutions Center is simulation. So from the manner in which customers in the US make their way around a Slurpee station in the store, all the way down to the fuel pumps right outside operated by the brand, the technology that governs these operations is simulated right here in Bengaluru. Take me through what typically happens in a space like this on any given day. Which part of the technology of the overall 7-Eleven brand is ideated, thought of, and literally built within spaces like this one?
This space particularly, we have teams from accounting. So they are working on merchandising accounting, property accounting, and different types of accounting, fuel accounting, right? But we have teams in the technology as well, and as well as we have spaces such as a lab, store lab, and as well as mock store. So the entire GSC is integration of technology, business, and the experiences, what we need to simulate the entire environment of the store. So if I have to talk about the mock store, that's where we actually have POS machine, the merchandise, where the teams here can go and experience the store and how that flows functions, and as well as work on the POS system.
Right.
And we have store labs where we have fuel dispensers, simulators of different fuel dispensers, because we have 7-Eleven, we have acquired Speedway that has a different dispenser. We also work with third-party dispensers too. So we have all the configuration of dispensers where our teams who are developing the software and the systems use that lab to actually test the real-world scenarios of how the dispensers function, whether when you lift a nozzle to when you make a payment or card declines, right? When you actually press the pump. All of those can be simulated in that lab to actually test every feature what we develop before it gets into the live environment.
Right. So you speak about the live environment itself. So I'm also curious, how many or how much of real-time store decisions are actually overseen here at the center itself? How does that pan out? You talk so much about simulations. In a real-time scenario, how does that pan out vis-a-vis store versus the solution center that we're in right now?
So the real-time store decisions happen in the store. We have sales associates and store leaders who make those decisions. But to make those decisions, data is key, right? And we have large teams actually working on the data, bringing all the data from all the 14,000 stores together, creating an environment where the business users can consume the data, create insights to drive real-time decisions into the store.
Right.
So we're not sitting here making the decision for each store and what happens on the floor, but we are creating all those insights which are critical to make those decisions for our store leader.
Absolutely. So the space that we're in right now and all of these teams that work, I'm told you have 900 plus employees right here at the GSC in Bengaluru. Are these teams more aligned towards geographies, or are they more aligned towards product? How does that work?
Our teams are aligned to either product, platform, or process. We have process teams when it comes to retail operations, corporate operations, whether it's merchandising or accounting, and that's a process, right? And then we have platform teams on the technology side, and as well as products. We have engineering teams. We have as well as product managers and user experience designers. They sit in the product organization. So they are designed to be aligned to either a platform or a product or a process.
All right. But by and large, the work that goes on here is vis-a-vis the North American markets.
Yeah.
So a lot of alignment towards that geography would pretty much be the order of the day?
Yeah, most of our teams work with US.
You know, Malhar, a large part of the 7-Eleven story is the aspect of customer experience that a number of your stores around the world are designed around. So I'm just curious, how much of a say do teams right here at the Global Solution Center have in shaping these customer experiences versus building it? How does that pan out in terms of the operations that happen right here in Bengaluru?
When you talk about customer experience, it's most important for us. It starts with how the store is set up, designed. So we have teams actually creating the store layout and design. And the merchandising is part of the customer experience, how that actually what is put in the store and how it is put in the store. So again, we have teams who are actually influencing the decisions, part of the merchandising teams. And we talked about the systems, what we create out of here. We talked about the labs, the store lab, the POS machine itself, which is a self-checkout machine, which the customers experience as well. So that design happens here, the implementation happens here. And the other business what we have is called 7 Now, which is a quick commerce. We deliver in 30 minutes from our live stores than unlike here, which is from dark stores.
Right.
And that entire experience is designed for both customers and as well as the drivers based out of here, and the product is co-owned and co-developed with the global teams.
So, Malhar, how does the work that you do right here at the center in Bengaluru translate to, let's say, my 2-minute dash to a 7-Eleven store, either in North America or Southeast Asia, or wherever it is that your influence spreads? How does the work here translate into that quick store visit, and which parts of it have levers that are actually pulled right here in Bengaluru?
So we are a convenience store. It's all about making sure we have the right products and the customers are getting when they need it, where they need it, right? So this 2 minutes or 3 minutes experience is designed all towards that. Do we have coffee ready by the time the customers are going to come in, right? Early morning coffee. Do we have all the sandwiches, enough sandwiches in the shelves? And is the shelf for the sandwiches next to an energy drink, because normally they go together, right? Creating that entire the product assortment, the availability of the products and where they sit, and as well as how fast the checkout happens, whether by the sales associate or self-checkout, is all integrated into creating that 2 to 3 minutes experience for our customers. So the GSC is part of all of those in creating all of those experiences.
Right. So do the teams that actually sit and work out of here have a say in how these products are stocked or how they're managed, or is it a bit of both? How does that pan out?
It is combination. We have merchandising teams here who are actually responsible for setting up the products, promotions, and all of that. And there are insights, merchandising insights teams actually creating the insights of what sells in what store and what amount of inventory you need in that store. All the insights are created out of the teams here, which are given to the stores for them to actually create the orders and get those delivered to the store.
Perfect. One of the most fascinating features of the 7-Eleven Global Solutions Center is simply the fact that the data that is crunched here has a role to play in shaping customer experiences all the way across the globe at a store in faraway Texas or Tennessee. And believe it or not, a lot of that has to do with the way the center here uses AI based on data that is collected from these stores. Here's how that's done.
So we are actually sitting in the space where our AI teams are located. I can talk about a couple of them. One of them, which we already talked about, on what inventory need to be available in what store and what we need to deliver to the stores from supply chain standpoint. So that is the decision what the AI is making. Of course, with the human in the loop, where the store manager get to adjust it and then finally place the order. The other area, what we are actually working on multiple use cases, but other area I can mention is our contact center, because we have franchisee stores as well, not just our corporate stores. And franchisee corporate store call into our contact center for various needs.
Right.
And we are transforming our contact center to use AI in various use cases.
Absolutely. So do you then use data from these stores to actually go about influencing or having a tech-based approach to pricing, promotion, or stock keeping at stores across the world?
Absolutely. We have an initiative called Retailer Initiative. So we look at the data nationwide, and then market, and then store level.
Right.
To actually decide what inventory need to be available, what products need to be available, how much they need to be available, and what prices they need to be, and what promotions need to be available for that community. What sells in Hispanic community is not necessarily what sells in Caucasian community.
Right.
So all of that is data-driven.
So in a sense, what you're saying is your center right here in Bengaluru can influence to a large extent in how stores are run in, let's say, Tennessee or Texas.
Absolutely. All these insights are influencing what sells in what store.
You know, Malhar, whenever we talk about global capability centers or solution centers, for the longest time, these places were merely seen as an extension of headquarters back in the home city of a brand or a company. When you look at the 7-Eleven Global Solution Center today, has it evolved to a place where, a lot of pivotal decisions are made here to a point where it is pretty much the fulcrum of the work that 7-Eleven does right here in Bengaluru for, your international markets?
So we don't call ourselves an extension, but we are an integrated team with the leadership distributed. So which means that comes with decision making and ownership as well. So it is one integrated team, one 7-Eleven team, making sure we are delivering value to the business and to our customers. So that's how we are set up.
5 years ago, a lot of the people viewed GCCs as cost centers. How much of that has changed to a time and place where we are at today, not just for 7-Eleven, but at global capability centers across Bengaluru or across South India for that matter? How has that evolution come about in terms of the prism through which GCCs are being viewed as?
We are definitely maturing as an industry, and including 7-Eleven as well. So 7-Eleven, we started about 5 years ago. When we came in for access to the breadth and depth of the talent, not just for the cost alone. But however, when you start with basic setup and making sure you're executing what is given. But we consciously made decision that where we want to be, and we'll continue to work towards the matured GCC, which is driving value, innovation. So that's how we have set up, and that's been our journey. And where we are today is we are not just a cost center. We have accountability and ownership for certain products, platforms, and processes.
So what do you say, or what do you think is the big shift in perspective, or or the way that the work here is looked at, that's happened vis-a-vis headquarters to your presence here in Bengaluru?
Again, it takes time to create the impact for the global organization. But however, right from the get-go, we had the executive sponsorship to build this center. So that is very critical to make this center very successful. And the better talent you have with the time, the value you create, the execution you bring, expertise you bring, definitely changes the perspective of the stakeholders on what can be done, what is possible. So that definitely has grown over time. And now we are talking about what functions are owned here versus what processes can be executed, right? And to own those functions, what kind of leadership we need and what kind of experience those leaders need. And we've been bringing great leaders with retail experience, with GCC experience, who have worked in large retail houses in the US market.
Right. You are presently 900 plus employees strong. You've built this center right here in Bengaluru itself. Where do you go from here? How does the space evolve? How do its functions, its responsibilities, and its teams evolve with time? Where do you go from here, and what does the future look like, Malar?
We've been growing about 35% year on year. I think that will continue in terms of growth, in terms of numbers. But however, our journey has been from execution to value. And now we are looking at a journey from value to impact and being indispensable. When I say value is about cost savings, or this is what we delivered, this is the productivity improvement, this is what we automated, to what's the value we are delivering to the business, top line, bottom line, how we are impacting, and being indispensable with the right leadership, right business knowledge. We have an initiative called Know Your Business, where when we bring in new talent, we put them through that program, so they learn how the convenience business works, and then drive, ultimately bringing in the business and the technology together, drive innovation and create outcomes for the global business.
Well, on that
That's the journey we are on.
On that note, it seems like it's a center built to take what 7-Eleven does and amplify it with the use of tech, data, and AI. Thanks so much for this tour. I greatly appreciated the time spent checking out your Global Solution Center, and thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for being here. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you, Malar. So there you have it. That was our tour of 7-Eleven's GCC, or as the brand likes to call it, its Global Solution Center. So the next time you make a pit stop at a 7-Eleven in the US or other parts of North America, you know that a big part of your customer experience there was built halfway across the globe, right here in Bengaluru.